So in this video we're gonna have a look and answer a video of Ahmed Deedat. It has a loudmouth title, Deedat Still Cooking Christians on the Injil. Of course it is a self-satisfying, imaginary, wild fantasy title, nothing to do with reality. He's not cooking anyone, never cooked anyone. Okay, at best, if he would be lucky to find a non-prepared Christian, so the best he could do is just to find a non-prepared individual, nothing more than that. So in this video, a basic idea which Deedat is trying to push is that we don't have what Jesus preached, but we kind of have the gospel about the gospel which Jesus Christ preached. Totally fake, made up idea. Okay, we don't have the gospel of the gospel. Okay, there is one gospel and it doesn't matter by whom it's preached. If it is Mark or John or so. We got in Islam this idea that there is some book in heaven. If I'm not wrong, if I understood correctly, that's the thing, that there is some scripture, some book in heaven called Injil, and was given supposedly to Jesus. And some Muslims say it's lost, some say was never written. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And Deedat is receiving a question about what happened to the Islamic claimed Injil.
Original Bible. What happened to that original Bible, which is the original words of God that was revealed to Jesus?
Okay, so that was the question. And Deedat answers
John says that he went to a certain place and he preached the gospel. Gospel, 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 gospel.
Okay, so we took an indicative segment about the first approach to answer from Deedat, and basically he says the gospel speaks about Jesus preaching the gospel. So the gospel says Jesus went there, here. The thing is that he is not answering, still is not answering the question which he was asked, and is presenting the fact that we have Mark, John, etc. as something invalid, So let's listen to that again.
gospel. John says that he went to a certain place and he preached the gospel. Gospel, 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 gospel.
It is a lie. Okay, the man either understood it or not. He was lying. John is not limited to saying Jesus went there and preached the gospel. John is documenting the very words that were preached, the very events that took place. So through John you become an eyewitness. So this blessing of becoming an eyewitness through John Deedat, with charlatanic words, okay, charlatanic approach. I'm not calling him a charlatan, but the approach is charlatanic. So this fact that we become eyewitnesses through John, he reduces it to saying John said Jesus preached the gospel. Well, that's a big fat lie. John is not that. It doesn't stop there. It gives the actual words, okay? The actual events. So he has not answered the question, and instead is being a demagogue. Okay, I don't know in English, but in Greek a demagogue is I copy pasted this. So in Greek a demagogue would be a politician, okay, who gains significant influence over the people by inflaming the passions of citizens with this rhetoric, okay. He was skillful in deceitful rhetoric, mainly by appealing to emotion, okay. He was very theatrical, okay, creating scapegoats, fear-mongering lies, and other methods that tend to stifle rational thought and encourage fanaticism. So that is a description about what a demagogue is in Greek, and I think the work of Deedat is quite close to this. Next, Deedat continues like this.
Now, we believe in that gospel. The word translated gospel into Arabic is Injil. We believe in the Injil. That there was this revelation God Almighty gave to Jesus. What he preached was from God. No doubt about that.
So, this man has not yet answered what happened, but says we believe in that gospel. He doesn't have a grain of dust of that gospel. He has nothing, and he says we believe. Of course anyone would believe in a non-existing gospel which you can shape as you like. That's the huge difference of Christians. The church, Christians, you can catch them from somewhere. You can tell, hey, dear Christian, come here. This verse, this space, this chapter, what is this? Where are you gonna catch Deedat? In the non-existing Injil, in the imaginary Injil? Are you gonna catch him in the non-existing Old Testament? Do you know that Islam does not accept even one single book apart from the Quran? Has not one single book that it accepts. Whenever convenient, says, oh yeah, this verse. So he has not answered the question and says, we believe in the Injil, and the Muslims do not understand that the man was a total scam. Okay, not as a character, his job was a scam. Okay, maybe even he may not have realized that his mouth was the mouth of a pseudo-prophet, a total deceitful mouth. Okay, then Deedat continues like this.
But I'm asking my Christian learned brothers, I said, look, when he preached the gospel, did he have Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans?
Did he have Mark, Matthew, John? So he still has not answered, okay? Still has not answered. Now, how could we put this in an example, what he says? So, you have an event, okay? Let's say a politician gives a speech on Monday, okay? And next day a journalist publishes the speech. And now Deedat is complaining why the politician has not the newspaper that was published on Tuesday. I mean, come and make sense of the Islamic Stupidity. Sorry for the wrong spelling. Come and explain to this man why the politician on Monday didn't have the newspaper that about his speech published on Tuesday. Okay? There is nothing invalid and wrong about the journalist on Tuesday. What the politician said on Monday, the journalist published it on Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday, same words. Okay? That's the job of the journalist, to document what happened and what was said. That is his job. And that's the job of the evangelist, of Mark, of Matthew, to tell what happened. The evangelist, and with God's blessings we got 4 of them. Everyone will give you a slightly different view, will include events and words of his side. Like if you take 10 people on the event where the politician spoke, and you ask the 10 people, they will give you about the same event without contradicting, without lying, more or less 10 views 10 views. One witness of the 10 might focus on something else, the other on something else. This is richness. This makes us rich. Okay, it's like having 10 cameras. One camera focuses here, the other focuses there. So the man does not answer and just is playing theatrical, creating impressions as if something invalid is going on in here. There is nothing invalid going on in here. Okay? Now, I don't know what was in his mind. Maybe he would come from this point of view that God revealed something to Moses and Moses wrote it. Okay? So you got God, Moses, God, Moses. Ahmed Deedat come from a point of view that Jesus is another Moses, okay? And he wants God, Moses dash Jesus. He wants God, Moses dash Jesus. He wants a gospel, ideally, if that written by Jesus. Then in his mind he would have God, human, God, human. This, however, has nothing to do with the historical church. We don't come from the position that Jesus is a mere human, okay? We don't come from that position. We come from the position that God dwells among us. So we have God, which is Jesus, and Mark, who is human. So we are totally fine. We got the chain God, human, God, human. The dad in his brain has the chain God, human, human. This is why he says the gospel of the gospel. This is why he is complaining. This is what he has in his brain, but this has nothing to do with the reality. Okay? I hope I made this clear, because I want to dive in on the other side's mind and see the depth of their argument.
Corinthians, Galatians, Corinthians, and there is arm.
He now wants Jesus to have Corinthians. Man, I mean, that's unbelievable. Corinthians, Galatians, Thessalonians. Look, these are local cities, Greek cities, Corinth, Thessaloniki. And years after Christ, like for example, the first bishop of Corinth is in 49 or 50 something AD, okay? The first bishop of Corinth, and the crucifixion of Christ is on 33 AD, okay, without going into crazy detail about when the zero starts, okay, but we take that. So the dad wants Jesus to have in his armpit a book called Corinthians. Corinth is a city. Corinthians is a local church, and their father, okay, the father of Corinthians, which is Paul, wrote them a letter. I mean, why do you speak in a mocking way, okay, against the letter of Corinthians? Why should Jesus Christ, like, it is like saying to me, Muhammad should have in his armpit the book of the Muslim scholar, Muslim missionary, whatever. Why should Muhammad have a future book of a Islamic spiritual father towards his children? I mean, come and make sense. And he's a scam. His job is a scam, top to bottom, charlatanic job. But he's got the theatrical, he's got the move, he's got the voice, he's got the deceitful skills. And the Muslims go like, whoa, yeah, cooking. I don't see any cooking. I see only charlatanism. I mean, come and think objectively. He wants Jesus Christ to have in his armpit a book called Corinthians. Why do you speak lowly of the Corinthians? He's a father. He was ready to die for them. He traveled to Corinth. He gave his soul, his heart, his spirit for his children, and wrote them a letter. What's wrong writing a letter to Corinthians, to a local city, to a local church? What is wrong? I don't understand. Why the mocking? Anyway.
The book? No.
Oh, God.
But I'm asking my Christian learned brothers, I said, look, when he preached the gospel, did he have Matthew, Mark, Luke, John?
Okay, we saw that already. Let's see next.
Matthew, book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, nothing was there. So what did he preach?
So, book of Matthew was not there. I mean, it's madness, okay. He wants the politician on Monday to have the newspaper of Tuesday. Let's see what we got next.
Are called the gospel according to Saint Matthew, the gospel according to Saint Mark, the gospel according to Saint Luke, the gospel according to Saint John. According. I'm asking why according to?
I am asking why according to. Okay? I mean, the guy has no clue what he's talking. On one side, he wants the very words of Jesus, and then complains about the according. Come and figure the Islamic madness. My friend, if you have the Gospel of Matthew and not according to Matthew, okay, how you gonna have the gospel of Jesus? If you want the gospel of Jesus, okay, if you want it, someone must give you the gospel of Jesus, not the gospel of himself, okay? Not the gospel of himself. We say Exodus, the book of Moses. Why? Because Moses wrote, preached that content. Okay. If we say Mark, if we say gospel of Mark, it means we have the gospel which Mark preached. But luckily we don't have the gospel of Mark. Luckily we don't have it. Instead we have the gospel, it is implied, of Jesus Christ. I am repeating, the gospel of Jesus Christ, the gospel which Jesus Christ preached, as according to Mark's documentation, as Mark documented it, as John documented it. So the very gold, okay, the gold is the word according to, the gospel of Christ according to this documenter, Mark, Luke. So this is the very gold that we become eyewitness of what Jesus said. So this gold, he takes it and makes it rubbish and mocks it. I don't know, am I clear? Okay, am I clear? I will repeat. The gospel according to Matthew means not the gospel of Matthew, not the gospel that Matthew preached, not that gospel. Is not Matthew talking anywhere in that gospel. Is not Mark. You don't see Mark said this and Mark said that. If in that gospel you see Mark said this, Mark said that, that would be the gospel of Matthew, the gospel which Matthew preached. But Mark is not giving us his gospel. He is not giving us what he preached. He is not giving us his birth, his mother, his life. He is giving us the life, the ministry of Christ. Okay? This is why it is called according to, because we have a unique event that God dwelt among us, which we do not have it with Moses. God spoke to Moses, Moses wrote. Okay? In here we don't have God speaking to someone, to a prophet, to a single person. We have a unique situation where God dwells in flesh among us. Okay? And God preaches instead of a mere human preaching. So the very revelation of God, who is Jesus Christ, I don't care if you believe that. That's not the essence of the discussion. We are not discussing if Jesus Christ is God or not. We are discussing the position which we come from. Is irrelevant if you accept it as true or not. I am building a case in here. Okay, when you go to a court, you set a case. The judge cannot say anything, this is lie or truth, until you set the case. What happened? After you set the case, that's another discussion for the judge to say this is true or not. So I'm laying the case. God dwelt among us in flesh, a very unique situation, and the life and the ministry and what God taught himself, okay, to the public. This is why he didn't have a book. How could God have a book? God doesn't preach from books. So that very unique event that God dwelt among us, a human comes and documents it. Who documents it? According to who is this documented? Is according to John, to Luke, etc. So we got God and the documenter, Mark, Luke. I don't see why the mocking, why this negative attitude. I don't see anything wrong in here. That is my case as a church. That comes from a point of view that Jesus was a mere human. Of course he's going to complain. If you make Jesus a mere human, Mark a mere human, Jesus a mere human, it goes a chain. But that's your Islamic case, 600 years later, with zero history, with not even one brick of Islamic buildings, with zero scholars before Muhammad, zero scrolls before Muhammad, zero history. You come from nothing, and you just have a big loud mouth. Okay, that's your case, it's your right. Okay, I have my case though. I'm responsible for my case. I'm not responsible for your case. I don't have to be held accountable of a human God chain. I don't have that. I have a human God chain. Human is Mark, God Christ. End of story.
I write little booklets. Yeah, here's one. Crucifixion or Crucifixion by Ahmed Deedat. Is the Bible God's word? Ahmed Deedat is not according to Ahmed.
So he says, this book is by Ahmed Deedat, not according to Ahmed Deedat. My friend, that book was written by you, has your brain in there. That is your book. How it can be according to? Mark didn't write any book, didn't put his brain, his opinion anywhere. Mark is a mere documenter. Do you understand that the gospel is not the book of the author? When you read a book, you get to know the author. his opinion, his explanation. Okay? That's not the gospel, my friend. There is nothing from Mark like his opinion or something in the gospel. Mark is a mere documenter. I don't know if there is such a word, documenter. He who documents. Is totally irrelevant. What has a documentation with a book to do? Nothing. In a documentation, you don't put anything from yourself. Like if a car crash happens and I'm going to document, I will write this car, this color, and that would be a documentation according to me, according to what I documented. There is not my documentation like my book to put my opinion in there. I hope my Muslim friends realize that Deedat was just a theatrical man, never dived into the depth of things, never did any serious work, was just a theatrical player, just an actor, a demagogue. God forgive him, God give him peace, nothing personal against the man. He's an image of the image of God, but at some point someone must explain and go in depth with these things, because unfortunately we got this bad habit. We don't dive into the words, we don't dive into the meanings, we don't dive into the events. Okay?
Deedat, this is not according to Ahmed Deedat, this is Ahmed Deedat. You read Brother Jimmy Swaggart's books, it's by Jimmy Swaggart. By Jimmy Swaggart, it's not according to Jimmy Swaggart.
Yeah, Jimmy Swaggart is not documenting, he's written a book. Mark didn't write a book. He's documenting someone's life. Okay? And that there are 4 people who documented. 4. This is why we say documentation, gospel, okay? According to the gospel of Jesus Christ, not the gospel of Mark. Anyway, there is no need to repeat the same things.
Why according to Matthew? According to Mark, according to Luke, according to John.
Why according to Matthew? Because it's not his book, it's not his life, it's not his opinion. It is of Jesus Christ. It is the gospel of Jesus Christ according to according to means as in the way that John documented it. So simple.
Why according?
According. Because, anyway.
You know why? Because none of them signed their names. They are anonymous books. This is
because none of them signed a name. They are anonymous books. Total lie. He was not even there. Islam came 600 years. Is total demonic lies. Total demonic lies. He is a Muslim, he is gonna lie, he is gonna do his thing. The church, though, has a continuity. It didn't come 600 years later, like Muslims, like the Protestants, like the evangelicals who came 15 centuries later, whenever, 17th centuries, I don't know when they came. The church gave birth to the book of Matthew, Mark. They are members of the church. Okay? So, we are the historical, continuous body. It is our book, is the book of the church. We gave it to the world. We didn't receive it from somewhere and put a name on it, as a Protestant could do or whatever, I don't know. Okay? The book of Matthew is the book of the church. It's not the other way around. We are not born by Matthew. We gave birth to that book. Okay?
What you assume that Matthew wrote. This is what you assume Mark.
We don't assume it. You Islamic lying mouth. We don't assume it. We are 2000 years old. We were there. We get to know Mark. We read church history. We get to know John. John came in Patmos, in Ephesus. We are a 2000 years old body. Islam has an existence of so many centuries. It doesn't matter that it is a satanic religion, but has a continuity, knows itself, knows the XYZ scholar, knows these events. I cannot come out of nowhere saying to Islam, you assume this, you assume that about yourself. I can, in principle, at least in principle, I cannot do that. Okay? From as long as Islam exists, has a continuity, knows itself. The same is with the church.
Wrote. This is what you assume Luke wrote. This is what you assume that John
We
wrote.
don't assume.
Therefore, according.
Assume. So he still has not answered what he was asked.
Now, this translations into Arabic. You have the Arabic Bible printed by the Christians, by the Bible societies. And they name their books in Arabic. It says Injil Matthew, in the Injil or the Gospel of Matthew. Injil. Injil Matthew, Injil Marcus, Injil Lucas, Injil Johanna.
Also is the Injil of have no clue what you're talking about. In everyday language, we also say, in Greek for example, το Ευαγγέλιο του Ματθαίου, the Gospel of Matthew. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the linguistic part. It matters what you are talking about. So don't be such shameless, deceitful. There is no Arab Christian that takes the Gospel of Mark as a book of Mark written about Mark telling his opinion, etc. It doesn't matter how an Arab Christian says it. He still means the Arab Christian means the gospel of Jesus as Mark, Matthew, etc. documented it. So you are so desperate, so cheap, so low, playing with the words. I mean, why? Are you seriously going to convince us that Arab Christians do not believe that Mark is documenting the life, ministry and gospel preached by Jesus Christ? Are you seriously going to convince us about that? No, you cannot. So it's just playing word games in here. Cheap Islamic rubbish.
I said, we believe in the Injil Isa. Isa means Jesus.
Injil Isa. There is no Isa. I'm not Arab expert, but I've searched it. I didn't see any Isa among Arab Christians in Arabic language. That is Injil of Satana. If you say Isa, is Satana. Because among the many tricks how Satana gains power is by butchering names. Even by that, Satan gets power. There is no Isa. There is no Isa. Okay? There is no Isa. I have done my research. I'm not Arab expert, but the way that Arab Christians refer to Jesus is something like Yeshua, I don't know, something like that, but definitely not Isa. What is this nonsense?
We believe in the Injil, the gospel of Jesus.
We believe in the Injil, the gospel of Jesus, which he has no clue. He never saw it, never touched it, never listened it. Okay? Amen. I'm saying this because he doesn't take the four gospels as the gospel of Jesus. Or till now, he made us deaf by complaining according. So it means he believes in an imaginary gospel.
Have you got Injil Isa?
Have you got Injil Isa? I have Injil Nonsensa. You were asked, I mean, look the madness. He was asked to provide that Injil, to provide the explanation of what happened. Oh man, it's like, don't know, imagine a policeman asking a thief, where is the car? And the thief asking the policeman, where is the car? This is the point of this whole video. The whole video started by the question, what happened to the Islamic claimed Injil? What happened? And he comes and asks accountability from us. We don't preach, we don't claim, we don't have such a claim. Injil Isa. Injil Isa, you can see it in the four evangelists. My madness.
Bring it.
You bring it, we'll bring it.
We will approve it. We'll accept it.
Bring it, of course we'll approve it. The imaginary, the thin air, the non-existence, you will approve it. Islamic lies. That's the basic Islamic strategy. Based on thin air, imagination. You cannot catch him anywhere. I have an imaginary gospel, good luck catching me somewhere wrong. I can claim whatever I like. Whatever I like. And the man was...
If there is such a thing, there isn't. Jesus Christ never wrote a word in his life. He never asked anybody to write a word in his life. Not a word was written in his life. Not one word was written in his lifetime.
Not one word was written in his lifetime. Then, what's the point? Going, Injil, 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 Injil. What's the point? If you admit that nothing was written. Why do you make us dizzy with the Injil Isa, Injil Isa?
Where is the book? So we believe in the principle that God inspired Jesus. Whatever he said was true.
Whatever he said was true, of course. Something that doesn't exist is true. Of course, of course. I too can claim the Injil Muhammadana. Whatever Muhammadana preached in his Injil, I take it as true. Yeah, Injil Muhammadana says Jesus Christ is Lord. Good luck. Debunk me now. It is in the Injil Muhammadana. Man, Islamic madness.
There are some of his words still preserved.
And this man, Muslim take him as a hero. Muslim take him. God, he's dead. I cannot say anything. May God forgive him.
In the Bible. Like for example, and this is life eternal. Jesus says that they should know thee, the only true God. And Jesus...
Oh God. They should know the only true God. And he believes they speaks about Allah. Oh my God. Who is the only true God? The only true God is the Father, in whom the Son and the Spirit always are. And because the Son and the Spirit, the Son is always with the Father, even in flesh, the Son is eternal life.